All right, Chris. So here's the deal, man. 900, 1,000 shows at this point. I don't know. I don't even know how many shows, okay, at this point, but I do know that we're inching upon that number. Never in Dad Edge history have we ever had a guest do his intro like this. So I don't even know how you. Oh, there. Okay. Yeah, what are we doing? Let's do it.
You ready? Let's make some noise.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We are men. We are warriors. We are dads. Dads with a purpose. Dads with an edge.
Yeah.
We sharpen our skills so we can show up best for others. We have one shot in life to be a dad. Why not make it epic?
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Dad Edge.
Oh, buddy.
Oh my God. Dude, you know what's so funny, man, is obviously I recorded that. I actually recorded that in a professional studio. I mean, all I did was I had this producer. She was awesome. She was actually Sean Stevenson's former co-host, Jade Harrell, for the Model Health Show, like way back in the day. And I went down to her studio. And this was like early on in Data, actually still Good Dad Project, I think. And, she was basically coaching me on how to say that stuff. She's like, no. She's like, I need you to say one shot, not one shot. I need you to say one shot. So she was like coaching me for that. And then I had no clue like what type of music that she was even going to use. And then she just sent me the track. And then she obviously put my voice in there. So, and the funny thing is like, when you're a musical idiot like myself, where you just hear music, you're like, oh, I like that, but you don't know like what's doing what. Like when I saw you for the first time post in the Alliance, what you just did, which by the way, guys, check what Chris just did on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search out the Dad Edge. You'll see this interview. But like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I hear the cymbals and I hear that and I hear that. But dude, the way you freaking crush like those drums, man. Like I showed my my oldest your video last night, and I was like, "Hey, you get," because he loves music. He plays saxophone, piano. He does know how to play a little bit of drums, bass guitar, electric guitar, trombone.
Wow.
And that's it. I gotta say that's it. Like that's all. But anyway, I showed him that, and he was just so impressed. He just thought it was so cool.
Well, you should do maybe all those. He should do the intro with those instruments, maybe. Is that
right? Do that. Oh, now you're giving us ideas, Ethan. So Ethan listens to the podcast. So Ethan, if you heard that, might be a request. I'm just saying.
Well, it's cool that you said that, Larry, because the drums really captures like attitude.
Yeah.
And if you think of being on an airplane or something, and it's like you want to look at that pilot. And it's like, they've got it, they're going to get me there. They've got this under control. Like they're calm and collected. We call it relaxed intensity, right?
Yeah.
So and of course, the Dad Edge intro starts with drums.
Yeah.
And you can just, the attitude of the Dad Edge Alliance, right? Being your best self, go for it. Being a present in the moment, empowering others, live legendary. It's ironic that that track came to you because the drums, and it starts with drums. You can feel that energy through the drums. Like, yeah. And every drummer in the Dad Edge Alliance that I've talked to says, yeah, man, I always air drum that too. And I'm like, me too, man. I'm in my car on my steering wheel. You air drum it. So
I air drum a lot. And somehow, some way, I really do think like the story I tell myself is, oh yeah, I totally understand what I'm doing here. Like I totally, right. But that's
how I am with air guitar. I'm a champion air guitarist. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know. Well, dude, man, I'm excited to have you on. Really, really excited to have you on, man. It's been a long time coming, and I'm excited to talk about how, number one, from a business perspective, we're talking to a lot of our business owners out there, and even if you're not a business owner, right? But also just a full-time gig, full-time job type thing. But basically doing the work that makes you come alive. Also, how many kids do you have, Chris?
Oh my gosh, 3.
3.
1, 4, and 5.
Yeah, 4, 5, and what?
1 year, 1.5 is Dorothy, and 4 years old is Henry, and just about 5.5 is Mia. So it's almost as close together as you can possibly accomplish that. So
And married to your lovely wife, Nancy. Yeah.
lovely wife Nancy,
I
and
love how you
we.
said lovely life
I was
because,
just about to say we share
right?
our life together.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Very cool, man. And so this is LTR, correct?
Hmm.
So tell us about you. I'm so curious. We're going to get to family. We're going to get to kids. We're going to get to like literally being your best self. I know, guys, sit tight. Hang on. Just bear with me. Being your best self and personal development through drumming. We're going to get there too a little bit. But I want to start out with, you've created a beautiful business here and you've been very, very successful. You teach people how to play drums online and you're wildly successful at it, which by the way, rightfully so, look at you play. But you also have this niche of like also teaching mindset
Hmm.
to kids, right? To even adults who do lessons with you and that kind of thing. But it's
Hmm.
so cool because like I mean, my kids have been around music forever. Like I feel like at this point because my oldest has been playing now for so long. Now my 8-year old's playing piano, and I've seen their instructors come and go. I played guitar for a while, but I've never quite met anybody who combines personal development with playing an instrument. So tell us about that.
It's yeah. Thanks, Larry. It's one of those. It's one of those instances where you join two obsessions together, and it could be even multi obsessions. And I love that when, like we say, the key to mastering one discipline is steal from many, right? And Bruce Lee is one of my heroes.
Ooh, I like that.
And yeah, and if you look over here, you'll see Bruce Lee right
Yeah.
there, who's present in the drum studio. But sometimes people say, "Who's your favorite drummer?" And I'm like, "Oh man, Bruce Lee," even though he's not.
Wait, did Bruce Lee drum?
No, although there is some Photoshop pictures out there with him with sticks. So they were
Okay.
unchucks with sticks. So you may have seen those, which are totally awesome pictures. But I don't think he ever actually hit a drum, as far as I know. But
I mean, he hit a lot of people.
he hit a lot of people. Exactly. He could take you out.
Yeah, he could, man.
But he stole Larry like bits from salsa dancing, boxing, traditional martial arts, just and philosophy, ancient philosophy, and merged it all together into his thing, which he called Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah,
Yeah, and which you've probably heard of. And
of course.
I've been obsessed with Tony Robbins changed my life when I was a teenager, and Stephen Covey, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and things like that. And of course, drumming has been my obsession, man, since the womb, since I was 5 or 6 years old, constructing drum sets out of like pillows and chairs and rulers and just, and my parents are like, yeah, maybe he'll grow out of that noisy thing.
Not
Nope.
not so much.
Here we are today, right? Making noise. And yeah, just my, the LTR, which stands for Life Through Rhythm, your best self through drumming, unleashing confidence, unleashing focus, unleashing self expression, believing in who you are, believing in your voice, just like a fingerprint. You're unique. You have something to say. And this just comes out through the drums. So I've always been a seeker, Larry, traveling the world, seeking out great teachers to feed my obsession. And we always say, feed the best within you to ignite the best within others.
There you go.
So I've been always passionate about just seeing, the joys as I share this gift with others, like teaching others, and the sharing enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is infectious. So when you see someone young, they're into it, or someone, who's middle aged, but they've always wanted to do it. It doesn't matter. You pass them the sticks, and you're like, check this out. Watch this. This is how you'll, develop your vocabulary, and you see how it just brings out the best in who they are as a person. And I started to see these things were joined. As their focus got better, their drumming became better. As they learned to face fear,
Do that.
right, and
Yeah.
develop courage, they overcame stage fright and were able to like connect with other people and form bands. And as you know, we always see people that are better than us and going, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Oh my God, that person's so good. You may have felt it when you started the podcast. You know, you see all these experts that make it look easy, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever get that good. Believe in who you are. You have something to say as well. No one can do it like you. Believe in that flame of passion that wants to come out. Like, it needs to come out. There's a saying that the graveyard's full of dreams that
Oh my
never
God.
were realized. You probably heard that.
Oh yeah. I have, man. And I got to tell you, man, that is extremely, extremely true. You know, Chris, you and I see it all the time, right? This is not to put men, husbands, and fathers down, right? It's to shake you by the shoulders a bit and rattle you a little bit. That, listen, I think it's very, very noble that men will literally we will throw ourselves on the sword, Chris, right? And we will do whatever it takes to provide and all these things, right? But I see so many men destroy themselves. Like they'll take it to an extreme. And then they wear it as a badge of honor. Like, see how busy I am. See how I'm killing myself. See how I'm like literally like I am just crushing myself for the sake of my family, right? Which, by the way, I want everyone to just check that for a second. Is it noble? Sure, it's noble. How is it effective? I don't know. I'd argue that point. I would argue that point because when we're like completely killing ourselves, right? Which I think, again, noble, right? Any man's going to do that. I heard this quote. I think this will really land. And actually, I'll say this quote and you tell me what you think. I just had a podcast guest on by the name of James Swanwick. James Swanwick. And he developed the blue blocking glasses Swannies, as he likes to call them, right? So, but he made a quote. He said a quote on the podcast I thought was really, really appropriate, and that is, if you ask any man, would you die for your family? Well, of course we would. Die for our family? Well, would you get healthy for them? Oh, no, I can't do that. Or would you live for them? And a lot of guys are like, I'm not exactly sure what that means, right? So think about that for a second. Would you literally like work yourself to death for the sake of your family, or can you somehow, some way have it all? Which is what we say a lot: have it all. You can do work, right? That's not killing yourself. You can actually pursue things that you're passionate about, and you can raise amazing kids and have an incredible connection with your wife. You can have it all. It's not one or the other. And a lot of us think that it's one or the other. But what do you think of that?
Well, I always say regret is the ultimate pain. And I've spent some time with seniors, Larry, and I've done, talk about drumming, bringing the best out in others. I've done volunteer drum circles with seniors, and it's incredible when you see someone in their 90s or even 104, this one lady, right? And you see it just ignite the best in them.
Oh yeah.
But when a senior looks you in the eye and says, yeah, I should have. I remember one gentleman, he said, I wish I left a bigger footprint in the sand.
Oh man.
And he looked me right in the eye and said that. And he was months away from the end of his life. And yeah, I'll never forget that. Like, he just looked me right in the eye, and he was sitting in a chair, and he was, a few weeks probably from the end of his life. And they said, I wish I left a bigger footprint in the sand. And I don't think it was an accident that he said that, because you leave a footprint in the sand, nothing is permanent. It's all washed away in the end.
Sure.
But live legendary is to put that footprint there, the best of who you are. And yeah, that regret, man. And so we were talking about merging who we are in life using drumming as a vehicle. So, excuse me, I can always see when someone comes in and they're overscheduled. Like you said, they're working too much. They're out of balance. They're neglecting things. And maybe we can't ever achieve perfect balance, right? But just going way too far in this and neglecting your health, neglecting your friends. and neglecting the best of who we are, that's going to knock you out of alignment. And we drum from the center, and we drum from our hearts, and that's just, you're going to see that coming out. And you can't just do this with willpower alone. Like, I'm going to just do it. I'm going to do it in 2 weeks, and then I'm going to go into the next thing. And that's why we say focus. So the big three are focus, confidence, and self-expression. And focus really is about essentialism, deleting the noise, Larry, especially in this time in history. There's never been a greater time and a greater need to delete the noise and to focus on essentialism. And really, the drums, we say it's a character mirror, Larry. That's where LTR, Life of the Rhythm, was really born. It's like, when you play, you're playing you. You're playing your character, whether you want it or not. The drums are just going to catch it. It's almost like a mirror of you. And that's what we want to grow. You can't hide behind anybody else and be them. You can try, but you're still you. You've still got that fingerprint. So, when you play drums, it's your life story. It's who you're married to. It's the kindness that you show a stranger. It's being present and feeling the wind on your face and taking a walk through the forest. One of my heroes is a guy named Victor Wooten. Now, you mentioned your son playing multi-instruments. This guy plays bass, and I forget that he doesn't even play drums, because it's like I resonate with his approach so much. So make sure your son knows Victor Wooten. And everybody out there listening, man, he's written books, and he's really inspired me for this. And he takes his students, Larry, check this out, he blindfolds them. And this is a bass camp. So you go to learn, hey man, I'm here to learn bass guitar. Where's the book? Where's the scales? Where's the traditional lessons? No, we fight against that. And Victor does too. So check this out. He takes them in the forest, blindfolds them, and he has them walk around, guided. They're not going to fall off a cliff or anything, but to walk around for I think a good hour. And he says, just listen. Listen to your own heartbeat. Listen to the sounds around you. Listen to your own thoughts that you maybe been ignoring. Listen to your heart. And then they pick up the bass, and then they come through. So that's a big part of the LTR thing, Larry, is like, let's look at you as a person, and let's develop the best in your character. And then when you just play the drums, if you just go like, We Will Rock You, just something simple like that, all those traits will come through.
Yeah.
Magic.
Well, maybe that's why I never really learned guitar. Maybe my guitar instructor didn't take me out in the forest. Let me listen to my own heartbeat. He just had me start doing scales. So
my teachers too, man.
Man, that's cool. It's interesting. Kind of a very odd sort of woo-woo thought, right? Like, and I'm not a big woo-woo type person. Like, I am to some degree, I guess, but I'm more logical. But I will say this: last night, me and Jessica, and this is right in line with like live legendary. Mm-hmm. A lot of us men, and this is, I think, the point you made as well. A lot of us men think living legendary is like, I have to go big, like huge, right? In some way, shape, or form. And my busy schedule just doesn't really allow that. And what I encourage men is, think of it this way. Me and Jessica we sat down last night, and both of us have digital, obviously, calendars. But I also have a planner, like a journal, where I write down everything that I'm doing also. And this week, as we record, it is like one of the busiest weeks I think I've ever experienced. I've got one kid, my oldest, is in band camp all day long from 7 to 3. Mason, my 14-year-old, starts freshman football practice tonight at 6 in the evening. He's been doing camp all summer, but now he's going to evenings. My 6-year-old, see, I can't even get that ages right. 6-year-old and 8-year-old, they're doing sports camp this week from 9 to 4. My 8-year-old also has some therapy because he has a condition with tics, so he has to go to therapy. My youngest also has soccer And my wife and I guess we were just wanted some punishment, and we signed up for dance lessons. Now here's what I'll tell you about the whole Live Legendary thing, right? Jessica and I've been married for 19 years, and we signed up for dance lessons because we both view ourselves as we're never too busy to carve out an hour of our time to learn something new that's going to connect us, right?
Mhm.
But here's what I'll tell you. I was going through the planner and both of us were just like, oh my God, okay, you do this, I do that, I'll do this, you do this, I'll go over here and do this over here with this kid. I'll go ahead and pick up this kid from over here. We'll have dinner over here, this at this. The person you will be like literally we're planning out everything. So that's there's so many moving pieces, it wasn't even funny. So as we're going to bed last night, Jessica, I don't know what it was, man, but she started talking about like her day the next day. She's like, okay, she's like, I'm just gonna get this right. I'm gonna get up a little early. I'm gonna get a little ready. I'm gonna get ready first, before the kids get up and blah blah blah. And I just stopped her and I said, I said this thing to her. I said, I'm not trying to sound weird, but is life all about how busy we are and who we have to take where? I was like, or can we somehow capture a moment tomorrow through all the busyness that we can just say something to either each other or the kids that's going to make tomorrow memorable and not so busy, even if it's over dinner, just something, right? And my wife just kind of stopped. She's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Well, think about it. We're going to blink and it's going to be Friday, right? And this week's going to be over. And we're going to look back on this week and it's going to be nothing but who ran what kid where, what kids did what where we had dinner on the go. Did we even have enough time to change our clothes and shower, right, in between things? And is that what we want out of this week? And she was like, I still don't follow. And I said, how can we capture a moment every day that's going to make the day memorable? So when we get to Friday, it was busy, but it was beautiful. And she was like, oh, I see where you're going. So we started identifying things that we could do that were like little tiny micro goals. Like even like, hey, maybe I'll send this text to Mason, my 14-year-old who, hey man, like I'm just thinking about you today. I know today is your first practice. This is memorable for first day freshman football practice. Go out and make it amazing. Or even if it's taking him out for ice cream to celebrate his first practice, just little wins like that. And we really just sort of removed ourselves for a moment from the busyness of the week and tried to insert like these tiny, tiny, tiny things, right? That would make it beautiful. And a lot of us, what we do as men is we think about these beautiful things or these legendary things, and it's got to be like this massive overhaul of the entire day, week, or whatever, which I don't think it needs to be that way. But what do you think of that?
I think that when you say something like live legendary, which I think everybody listening that resonates with, we want to, one life, one shot, we want to go for it, right? The the double-edged sword of that is like we want to read every book and just go everywhere, and I freaking fall guilty to this, Larry. Like you're telling me a story about like yesterday, or this week for you. Me too, man. Like, and I think we need a constant reminder to face space. Have the courage. Like something I wrote in my journal recently was like, have the courage to carve out space, and it's so challenging. And that's part of what we do with drumming is it's an outer thing. We're making noise. Sometimes the police come because and people can hear us for miles, and we're playing in a band, playing to the audience, but there's an inner side to it too, which is like an inner meditation. And ironically, even though you're hitting things and you're making noise, it stills the waters, and everything settles, and you can see clearly. And just creating that space is so important. And I think it's something we have to really just create a habit, and the discipline and routines, and also surround ourselves with those that are going to hold us to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. like the Dad Edge Alliance, and it really helps us. Like, did you journal today? Did you take a deep breath? Did you meditate? Did you go to the space? Did you silence? And ironically, drumming does that for me. And I just had, I'm an eternal student, Larry, just as you are. And I had my drum lesson, man, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. And
So you still take lessons?
oh my gosh, yes.
See,
Yeah.
I'm going to comment on that after you're done. Keep going.
No, please do. Yeah. And the best, man, when I was young, I sought out a lot of the Yodas of drumming, Larry. And I could
The
talk.
Yodas. I love it.
Right. Yodas of drumming, man.
Yeah.
Like drumming you will do, literally, man.
I love it,
4 feet
man.
tall.
Oh,
And like they, they're first of all they're very childlike, which Yoda was, man. So there's a lot of similarities there. They were Jedis, which Yoda was too, but they were eternal students, man. And that you'd see them talking to each other. Hey, man, what was that thing you did? Right, left, right. And there's stories of one legend is going up an escalator and the other legend is going down, and it's like, hey, Vinny, what was that thing I saw you do? Right, left, foot, left. Oh, cool, thanks, dude. There's all these sharing information, enthusiasm, being their eternal student, right? So,
yeah.
heck yeah, I take lessons, man. And I have mentors and teachers and lifelong people that I go to constantly center myself. And one of them is Klaus Hessler from Germany. And so the magic of being online, right?
Yeah.
And he's a fellow ball drummer, so you guys look him up if you want to see an incredible drummer. But he's big into Indian drumming and drumming from India. Man, this goes back, Larry, like centuries. And I actually traveled to India to learn this, and I studied it for many years to take it into my.
Wait.
Yeah,
You traveled to India for this?
I did. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was,
Okay.
it was deep, man. Yeah.
Chris is like a drumming monk, guys. Okay.
I I had the monks kick my butt, man. They're the toughest mofos you'll meet, man. But so Klaus had this Indian teacher to help us, right? Because Klaus is also, we're all learning. And anyway, so I asked him a question, and his name is Claudio Spieler, this great Indian drummer. And I said, Claudio, what was something you learned from the great Indian masters you've studied with? The monks, the guru monks, these incredible masters that resonate with you today in your daily routines. Because I'm fascinated, Larry, by habits and daily routines and practice, the ritual of this, the atomic habits that we live, right?
Oh yeah.
Stuff. And you know what he said? He said what you said. He said, you know what my teacher told me, Chris, that I remember every day? And I just heard this a couple days ago, and I needed to hear this. Like on paper, Larry, I've heard this, we all know it, right? 20 years ago, I heard this from books and teachers that I had, but this is what he said to me. He said, what my teacher said was, go deep on less. He said, just take one thing. He said, set a timer for 20 minutes and just do this one thing for 20 minutes. And he said, at first, the chatter, this is stupid, you've got it. Your ego, right? Like, go on to something else. You have lots of things to do. Blah, 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 blah. The busyness. And that eventually it stills, the chatter goes away, and your creative self comes out, and you realize how much you can do with so little.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, and he told me this like 4 days ago, and I was like, whoa, and it just shook me, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, I needed to be reminded of this. Like when I sit to practice, sometimes I'm because I'm super passionate. You can probably hear it. And Larry, by the way, every drummer around the world is an energetic, passionate, ADD, supercharged, coffee drinking person, right? That's just how it is. If you're a drummer, you know what I'm talking about. Or if you know a drummer, you're tapping, you know how it is, right?
Yeah.
And so when I practice, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And here's my teacher going, do one thing only and go deep. And that's a metaphor for life. That's what the LTR thing is, making these connections. So I love that you brought that up about your massive week, but it sounds like, put your arms up, Larry. You won. You went with Jessica out to dance. You
Did.
Yeah, you overcame that. You didn't fall prey to that. And this goes back to fighting regret, Larry. Sometimes, let's say you came to me to learn drumming, and I'm like, wow. For and the first thing I say is, okay, Larry Hagner, put your arms in the air. You have won, because for every Larry Hagner I see that is owning the day and wants to pursue their passion and live legendary, there's 99 other Larrys that put it off.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Next year,
Shit,
right?
dude, I was one of them.
Me too.
Yeah.
Next year when I have more time,
Oh, dude.
I'll spend time with my kid when I have more time.
Yeah,
I'll get to this passion. I'll take care of my health when I can afford it. It's like, no, it's one day, one lifetime.
I
And so when I
agree.
meet with these people, it's like,
Yeah.
you've already won because you've taken action on that.
You know what's so cool, man? So Jessica and I, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. She and I sat down and we were talking about, retirement, right? We were talking about, but what we do every year, is we check in with each other on, hey, what do we want to do this year that is going to be meaningful? And we'll also, the other thing we do too is we check like our bucket list, right?
Mm.
Things that we really, really want to do. Like, and we started talking about our bucket list and we started talking about like how we could, um, just fulfill these things that we truly have always wanted to do, right? And we started talking about retirement. And she looked at me and said something really, really profound. She's like, let's not live our best life and our best experiences in the last chapter.
Mm.
And I was like, oh,
Exactly.
I knew what she meant, but I was like, tell me more about that. She's like, listen, I know we're busy, four boys, you have a full-time business that always needs your attention. Um, but we're young and we're really healthy, right? And she's like, and I look at like my parents and stuff like that who are trying to now do stuff in retirement,
Mm.
and their bodies don't necessarily cooperate with them as much as it did in their 40s. So what if we sprinkled in these things now? Like, and we brought the kids along with us, for memories. And I was like, oh my God, that's gold. So all these things that we're doing. So like next year, we've never been to Hawaii,
Mm.
and we're going to be married 20 years next year. And I told her, I was like, there's two things I would love to do on our 20th year. Number one, I would love to go to Hawaii. And number two, I want to remarry you.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, and I want all my
Beautiful.
boys to stand up for me on my side. Right. And I think, because if you really think about it, like, if you really think about it, like, I mean, now granted, both of those things are really, really big. But I mean, when I say getting remarried, we're getting remarried at our house. So it's not like we're dropping like five figures and, going and doing a wedding hall. No, none of that. Like, this will be pretty simple. But we're getting remarried at our house. And, we're going to have people dress up and we're going to do the whole thing. Right. And then I'm using, my credit card points from the business to fund Hawaii. So like, I think the cool thing about just things like that is that even if you want to do things that are big, right, you can plan for them and you can do them really, really smart at the same time. Well, they'll still have the same effect, the same impact. I'm curious though, like, so I want to sprinkle that in there before we move on, but I want to get more to you and just life in general. You work from home, full-time business owner, right? You teach people obviously how to not only play drums, but I would say be drums, or like,
Mm.
the part of them who is. You've got little kids at home, which I'm the story I'm telling myself that still need naps. So you got to sprinkle in around like their naps around teaching people drums. Your wife doesn't work. So you do this full time.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do it all?
Yeah, I ask myself that every day, Larry. That's a good question. I love, by the way, what you said about remarrying. That's one of my dreams too, and I think you're going to be a crying mess.
Oh, I will.
My gosh, I can imagine in my future, my three kids on one side. That's one thing I want to do too, is remarry my
Yeah.
wife. And in Hawaii too, we've actually had a dream to go to Hawaii, so we might do that. But um, what I try to do daily is imagine my death, and that sounds
It
maybe
sounds
morbid
so
at first,
morbid.
for sure, right? But we call it the tombstone test. Like, what do you want written on your tombstone?
Yeah.
So, we live for today, everything we talked about being present, but seeing 1 year ahead, 3 years ahead, 5 years ahead, 50 years, even 100 years out, and having a vision. And that's why in my program, the first thing we do is we work with you and chart out a course and a vision. And that just helps delete the noise, right? And keep you on point. So I love that you do that with your wife Jessica of like thinking about retirement. And there's something, or thinking that far out. There's something I heard once of well, first of all, I'm never going to retire because I love what I do, and why wait, right? Like you said, why wait that long? And
Yeah.
I read in a book once, it was like mini, just what you said, have mini retirements, like do these things now and just carve out a month here, a month there, and almost like you're taking that time and just doing it now and kind of spreading it out. And so it's really about seeing your future self and becoming that. And that's the big mystery. It's like, don't find yourself, create yourself. That's one of the mantras we have in the LTR drumming method. Don't find yourself, create yourself. Like you could be anything. You could be anything. It's powerful stuff. And having a future vision really helps keep you on course day to day with the micro actions that we do. Like, what am I doing right now? Which step am I going to take right now to get me to that future vision? And that's what I help kind of people map out, and using drumming as the vehicle for that. But it's powerful stuff, very powerful.
Do you, so when you say you think about your own death, what, like, what comes to mind for you that keeps that like more, I would say, in a positive light?
Well, if you know the Buddhist monks, Larry, do something called a mandala, and that's where they make this beautiful art creation sculpture almost out of sand. And I think they take 3 days to a week to create this, and then they wipe it clean. Like they literally on purpose wipe it clean, and you can see some video of this, and it's incredible. And it's beautiful art that you would want to see in a museum, and then they just wipe it clean because it's all made out of sand. And it's to represent the impermanence of everything. And you asked how I do it all. We have another, I love acronyms. And in the LTR drumming method, we have this one, IAO. Oh, I heard this from Conor McGregor. And it's, see how we steal from all things, right? Conor McGregor. He's one of my favorite drummers, man. He's
Wait,
probably never
Conor
been
McGregor plays drums?
in his heart. He does. He doesn't even
Okay.
know, but he does. But in his Irish accent, he said like improvise, adapt, overcome. You know, we can't control the world, we control ourselves. And so when I have you right, like the naps and the noise and stuff, and how can I be a servant hero? How can I lead from the back? That's what our heartbeats do. Right now it's happening. Your heart is behind everything, leading everything. And that's what we do as drummers. And that's what improvise, adapt, overcome, IAO, is really about. And one of my heroes is also Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor that lived thousands of years ago. And every day I read meditations, and you see him reflecting on his impermanence, much like the Buddhist monk mandala ritual. And it just puts things in perspective, Larry. Like even this morning, the kids are clawing at you. Everybody wants something from you. It's they want attention, and you can almost feel your emotions well up, and the chatter in your mind starts. We call the chatters the negativity that we all have, right? Like, I wish everybody would leave me alone. And that's okay. We forgive ourselves, and we give ourselves grace on this journey. But the impermanence is like, man, this little being will literally no longer be here one day. Now, some of us heartbreakingly go through deaths, but I think we die a series of deaths. So in other words, the 7-year-old that we mentioned earlier that drummed is no longer alive for all intents and purposes. The you, Larry, that you were 10 years ago, and I've seen you post this on your Instagram, you when you were a new father, and you said, man, my life was falling apart. I didn't, I was lost. That person is dead. And the samurai talk about this in their ancient scriptures. Like, you reignite yourself and you're reborn. Like it's like a reinvention of yourself. So yeah, that's the impermanence of things, and that's I remind myself this. I look at my kids and I'm like, man, I'm sure they'll live long lives, but the beings that they are now will no longer. They'll just be gone one day, and that gets me centered really.
Mm.
So that is a very positive thing, because then I can go into joy, then I can share a moment with them, and then I can create a memory and experience, and that's really more powerful than any material thing.
I love that, man. Let me run another situation past you just to get your first reaction. So you probably know Fraser Bailey in the
Mm-hmm.
Alliance. Yeah. So Fraser is he's a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And when most people think of vegans, they think of like these really skinny people, and that kind. Fraser looks like the Incredible Hulk. Like, he's a vegan bodybuilder. He's huge. He's a good friend of mine. He's the one who's been helping me with my plant-based. By the way, if you would have asked me if I was plant-based, if I'd go plant-based like 3 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. But unfortunately, my body doesn't do very well with meat and high cholesterol levels and all kinds of just funky things. I went plant-based and literally my entire health turned around. And the weird thing is my testosterone's higher.
Mm.
I have more energy. I perform better in the gym. I actually lift heavier. I actually did a bodybuilding show with my 14-year-old and did it plant-based,
Wow.
and was in the best shape I've ever been in. And one thing I can tell you is that so I had an opportunity, and the reason I tell you about Fraser is because he's been a coach of mine for a long time, and he and I sat down. We talked after I did this show back in April, and he said, "I want you to think about something." He goes, "I've known you for 3 years. I've seen you get in good shape and then out of shape, then good shape and then out of shape, and then good shape and then out of shape. It's this teeter totter, right? It's this thing that you just keep doing." He goes, "I want you to think of who you are right now." Like, because right now, like, I was 195, I'm now 165. My body fat's at 7, and I feel great. And he's like, "I want you to view yourself as this is the Larry 2.0 of who you were. Larry 1.0 got you as far as he did, and let's honor him for that. But
Mm.
I want you to visualize you taking Larry 1.0, paying homage to him, burying a 6-foot hole in your backyard and burying him
Mm-hmm.
and honoring him, not in a bad way, but just being like, this is no longer how I operate." And I don't know what it was. And you mentioned in there, you mentioned when I became a new father. And
Mm.
yeah, I've put that photo on social media where I literally just, I look 10 years older than I do now. And that photo was taken 14 years ago. And I just look like, I don't know, like I'd kind of given up a little bit. I was overwhelmed and everything. And it just really sucked. And one thing I can tell you is, yeah, that man is gone. He got me that far, but I don't operate that way anymore. And from a health perspective, I don't operate how I did 6 months ago. Right. And I think there's something to be said of when you're coaching people, when you're helping people, it's not just a change for like right now. It's a change for life. It's like, hey, let's put let's take some of the traits that serve you, right? Some of the amazing things that are doing well for you. Let's also identify the ones that are not.
Mm-hmm.
Let's replace those with habits that are going to serve you, that are going to elevate your relationships, going to elevate your mindset, your health, physical, mental, emotional health. All these things are so important to us. Let's capture those and do more of those. And then let's operate within that manner of the 2.0, not the 1.0.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that as you think about even your own business, your kids, marriage, and everything?
Yeah, that's so powerful, Larry. We're all just inherently scared of change. Change is scary. Going into the unknown is scary. Going into the blue ocean, it terrifies us sometimes. And I've really been inspired by the great mentors in my life. They face that And like my teacher, a great guy named Dom Famularo, he used to do this thing when he'd be in front of a group and he's like, I'm on the edge of the cliff, and he'd stand like this and be like, I'm not gonna almost fall off, but I live life like right there, embracing change, embracing the unknown. And you're right, the old you it got you this far, that 1.0, but that person has to be laid to rest to embrace change and embrace the unknown. And really, we need courage, and we need to be vulnerable for that. And these are the traits that is LTR drumming. And a big group that I help, Larry, is teens 11 to 17, thereabouts. And I'll never forget the story I had this student named Dove, and he's 15, or he was 15 at the time.
Wait, his name's Dove?
Yeah, isn't that, by the way, his like, that's a marketable name. My
Yeah.
name's Orange Chris.
You can't mistake that one.
Exactly. If your name's Dove, that's just cool right away, man. You know the story of Gene Simmons, and he changed his name. He had like a
No.
traditional Hebrew name. He's like, I gotta make it something cool. Gene
I
Simmons.
no, I had no idea.
Yeah, he invented it. Invent who you are, right? So Dove, anyway, he's born with a super cool name. You're right. And he was in this masterclass that I had where I brought on a special guest, this retired Navy SEAL named David Rutherford. And there's the Life Through Rhythm thing. It's like, what's a Navy SEAL doing teaching drummers? Well, it actually has everything to do with drumming. Courage, facing fear, developing the best within yourself, living with confidence. Man, the band needs this from you, Larry. When you start hitting things, they need these traits from you. You can't play drums scared. You can't play drums without attitude. And you can't play drums trying to be anybody else. Forget it. It's not going to work. The best drummers live with these traits, whether you know it or not. So we had David Rutherford on, and my student Dove, he's 15 at the time. And he said, and when we opened it up for Q&A, Larry, he impressed me with stepping up and being vulnerable. He said, yeah, David, I have a question. He said, what advice would you have for someone struggling with an anxiety disorder?
Mm.
And he's 15. And he asked this question, and David went, whoa. He said, first of all, you have so much courage for asking that, man. Like, wow, I got to honor you for that. And he says, first off, you're not alone. You just know that. If you're going through these dark times, you're not alone. And then he said, believe in yourself, celebrate, your wins and all. And he gave this really great answer to him. And now it's coming up to a decade later, and Dove, is still in the LTR drumming community. Check this out, man. He's just graduated his fourth year Berkeley. So I don't know if you know the prestigious Berkeley music
Sure.
school. Oh my gosh, right? People travel all over the world there. And he's graduating, Larry, and he's going to Nashville, and he's producing music, writing music. He's got his own band. He plays you mentioned multi-instruments. He plays more than I'll ever get to in my whole life, man. Just writing songs, playing guitar, playing drums. Oh my gosh. I don't do half the stuff he does. He's a great success, and he's really just taken charge of his life. Still in his early 20s. He's got his together. You know what I mean? And so I had this idea. I'm like, why don't I have this like case study where I have Dove and a few other students that have overcome so much, and like talk about, now that it's all this time later, like how has drumming and music helped you get through these times, and what were these tools that you overcame anxiety, isolation, and depression through using music as a vehicle. And he said, I still remember that to this day of what he told me, you're not alone. And he's used these tools to overcome this in his life. And it's just, it's powerful how you can just overcome that darkness. And he was like that picture you said you posted of you lost at that time. That was kind of Dove at that time. He was 15. He's like, man, I don't know, is lacking confidence and full of anxiety. And look at him now. He's like a new version of himself, reborn, and just crushing it. So having faith in this journey and leaning in and asking for help and really using these powerful tools, like drumming is the one that I use. There are others out there. Some people go into martial arts, some people go into cooking. It's really following your passion, but using these to overcome them and to grow the confidence in yourself. It can be done, and you can be any version of yourself you want to.
I love that, man. And it's such a beautiful segue, actually, to the end of the show, because I want to, what I really want to do is I want you to really encapsulate this into how you see the world, or how you could basically um, really direct men to think about this differently. And here's what I mean by that. I want you to think about everything that we talked about here. And I want you to think about being a father and being a husband. And how do we encapsulate every single thing that we gave these men today on this show and give them something that they can go do right after they listen to this?
Two mantras that I use, Larry, and that we share in the LTR drumming community is the best in me ignites the best within others. The best within me ignites the best within others. What more could you do as a father? That's beautiful. You're going to leave, and it's going to ripple out. You know, this work that we do, when you inspire somebody else, when you make someone else smile, when you empower somebody with tools so they can become their best self, this ripples out in the world, and you know, where it ends, no one knows. It just goes and goes and goes, right? So I think, like, take charge, like you said, in those actions, like today, be the best you can to ignite the best within others. And the others, one thing I try to read every day and remember is to give my family and kids and my wife love, security, and an example to follow. And I think being a servant hero is really serving something greater than yourself. And that's where drumming is a metaphor for that. Any great drummer's like, man, it's not me. I'm serving something. I'm tapping into something, a force far greater than myself. And we mentioned the Yoda Jedi reference. That's kind of what the force is, right? You're tapping
Yeah,
into something far greater than you. And that's what community is, and the Dad Edge Alliance is, and the community of drummers and musicians, and anything you tap into. And so that's the example I try to lead, is to be a servant hero behind the drums and into life.
I love that, man. You're doing good work in the world, man. I just want to make sure that the men can find everything that you're doing. You know, even if they want to take some lessons themselves, or they have a kid who's looking for a teacher, like, hey, listen, you know, you definitely got some gold here of what Chris does. But, you know, just also, you know, you put a lot of things out there on social media, you know, that are very positive, very uplifting. So if many want to follow you, I just want to make sure we point the guys in the direction on the best way to follow you, connect with you, or even if they want more information.
Yeah, it's all at chrislesso.com, my name, and that's on all platforms. And I try to, yeah, just share something that'll empower you. And sometimes it's something vulnerable, about a struggle, something that I learned that I think will help you in the path. And I've got some free resources if it's for you drumming. You know, there's a great clip of the comedian Bill Burr I saw, and he's like, you know, we know comedy's his thing, but he's like, man, I got to drum every day. He's like, I don't do it in a band, I don't do it in public that much, but he's like, I go to my basement, and that's my daily meditation, right? So if you've always wanted to do it, take charge. You can connect with me. I've got a free resource for you at chrislesso.com. And if you're, you know, youth in your family, your child, you see the spark within them, like I had when I was like 7, and you think, man, this will be fun for them. I want to encourage them to follow their passion. Sometimes kids don't stick with something for a lifetime. You know, curiosity and enthusiasm is a very great thing as we grow up. So they might check something out and move on to something else. So that's why with the LTR drumming, it's like you're going to take the focus, confidence, and self-expression into anything you do. That's always my goal, and that's what happens. So if you got someone young in your life, I got a free resource at chrislesso.com/ drumming youth. And that can, there's a really cool resource there that you can see if that spark is there, and that'll lead them on the way.
Very cool, man. Well, hey guys, not to worry. You won't have to remember all that. You can just head over to the dadedge.com/Friday 6-7 for this show. Again, the dadedge.com/Friday 6-7. Chris, I always end this show, man, saying like, obviously go out and live legendary, because I really, that's the last thing I always want men to hear. Go out and live legendary, right? And again, we really encapsulated what that means. It can mean something big, medium, or my favorite, keep it simple. And even keep it small if you want to, right? Like, even if it's like, hey, go sign up for dance lessons with your wife. Mm-hmm. Go take your son out for ice cream at his favorite place after he gets done with his first football practice, right? Ask him what the best part of it was for him, that kind of thing. So, Chris, I want you to say the go out and live legendary today, man.
Oh, man, I'm honored.
Yeah.
Go out and live legendary.
Yeah. Go out and live legendary. Gentlemen, like I said, you can find all the show notes over at thedadedge.com/Friday 6-7 for this show. Chris, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, brother.